So here's part 2 of the Ryan Walters saga this week, because all the stuff I just told you in the previous video is not everything he's done. He also decided to go ahead and just purchase a whole bunch of Bibles anyway. And which Bibles do you think he bought? You'll never believe it. He went ahead, used his office budget, we think, and bought 500 Trump Bibles. And he announced this in a video on Twitter, I think. There you go. The Bible is back in Oklahoma's classrooms. By the way, there's an apostrophe missing, you superintendent of public instruction. We're getting our kids back on track. Let me play you this video that Ryan Walters said about the Bibles.
I'm excited to announce today that Oklahoma is the first state to bring the Bible back to the classroom. Today we purchased over 500 Bibles that will be in the AP government classrooms across the state. Bible just like this. We have the Bible, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights. These are foundational documents in our nation's history. Our kids have to understand the role the Bible played in influencing American history. It's very clear that the radical left has driven the Bible out of the classroom, which leads to a lack of understanding of American history. We will not stop until we've brought the Bible back to every classroom in the state.
So this is what happens when you are more interested in sucking up to Donald Trump in order to become his next education secretary than doing anything to actually help Oklahoma students. It also gives away something. Like I spent the last story saying, Ryan Walters' office spent all this time trying to create a criteria list. We need 55,000 KJV Bibles. And they go out of their way to say it has to be leather bound or leather-like bound. And they never say we want the Trump Bibles. And then all the reporters and all the critics are like, dude, we know you are only talking about the Trump Bibles because there are no other Bibles that meet the criteria that you have set. And what did he hold up in that video? He said he bought 500 copies. He was holding up the Trump-endorsed Bible. Like, yeah, buddy, we know. That's what everyone was saying and that you were lying about because you're a Christian in the sort of conservative Christian who thinks you can lie for Jesus and it's always okay. So here's Walters just holding up the Trump Bible, pretending this is not what he always had in mind. He just happened to pick up a Bible, this one. He doesn't even have to say Trump's name for people to know that's the book he's promoting. So a couple of questions from that video. First, he said, we purchased these books. Who's we? Who purchased those books? Is it his office, which means he used taxpayer dollars to buy 500 Trump Bibles? Was it a donation? Because what the hell? I didn't know you could. I'm sure the Satanic Temple has a lot of books. They would love to donate to public schools everywhere. By the way, Trump Bibles cost $59.99 plus shipping, which means if Walters' office bought those, that's at least $30,000. Is it coming from his staff's budget? Like he doesn't say. And I have not seen any explanation of that. So that's messed up. But here's the other part, and I did not see this covered in a lot of the news stories about what I just shared with you. He said he bought 500 copies of that Trump Bible because he was going to send it to teachers who teach AP government. Okay, let's talk about that for a second. Because if he sent those books to AP Gov teachers, first, it's not like they would have to use them. There is no requirement that teachers have to use the Bible in the classroom, despite Walters' mandate. Remember, superintendents have already rejected that mandate that Ryan Walters made up. And there's an ongoing lawsuit to make sure that mandate is not in effect. So that's one thing. All of this is for show. Walters isn't fixing anything that's broken. What he just made, what I just showed you, was a campaign video for himself. Ryan Walters made that video as like a pitch for Donald Trump so that he chooses him for Secretary of Education. That's my theory. But okay, let's talk about AP Gov. For those of you who are not familiar with the Advanced Placement Program, it is ridiculous that anyone could say, I got you a Bible for you to use in your AP Gov classroom. Because, okay, let's talk about AP classes if you're not aware of this. The College Board, the same company that I think does the ACT or SAT, one of those, They put together advanced placement classes. And in the United States and some other places, you can take AP classes, and at the end of the school year, you could take one test and get a score on it. And that score, if you do good, it might count for college credit. So I will tell you from personal experience, I took a bunch of AP classes in high school. I was able to finish college early because I had all those credits, and it saves a lot of tuition money because of that. So that's nice. Even if you don't take the test, even if your goal is not to get college credit, AP classes let students experience the rigor of a college classroom in high school. So maybe you find that useful and you want to know, what is a hard class actually like? So that's nice. But here's the thing about AP classes: there is so much material. Ask any AP teacher. There's so much material you got to get through. It feels like you are drinking from a fire hose, and your students feel like they're drinking from a fire hose if they're taking these classes, because you got to cover so much. The tests occur like a month or two before the school year even ends, so you don't even have the full school year. And there's so much, like, if you are teaching an AP class, they're also pretty standardized. Everyone around the country is basically teaching the same stuff around the same time in order to get through the material, because there is a set. You got to teach kids this and this and this. And you get some leeway in how you teach it. That's the fun of being a teacher. But in terms of material, you don't write what you're going to teach kids. So when it comes to AP government, you don't get to say, we're going to have a chapter when it comes to how the Bible was used by the founding fathers. That's not how it works. The AP curriculum is already set. You can download it. I was just showing this PDF. That's like 200 pages that goes through what you have to teach kids. And if you're lucky, maybe someone at the school you teach at can share with you, this is what I taught on any given day. This is the homework I assigned on any given day. The thing is, there is no time to work in additional material. Definitely not a lot of time. So let's say Ryan Walters gives these AP Gov teachers a Bible. What do you think they're going to do with it? You think they're going to say, well, this will change everything. Now I can teach kids about Christianity or something. No, they have a job to do. They've spent all year putting together a very meticulous curriculum because they have a job to do. They want their kids to get good scores. They're not going to change it because some idiot shoves a Bible in their face. That doesn't make any sense. And if Ryan Walters knew anything about AP classes, he would know that. This is interesting. If you read any article about what Ryan Walters just did with this 500 Bible purchase thing, not a single one of them that I have seen includes a statement from any AP government teacher who says, yes, this is good. I need this Bible. Because they wouldn't. You're teaching the best and the brightest at your school. You're not going to waste their time with bullshit. And that's what Ryan Walters wants them to do. Okay? Doesn't make any sense. It's a waste of time for these teachers specifically. So Walters either doesn't know or doesn't care how AP classes work. His only goal is to put out a video that has his face and Trump's product and the idea of education all wrapped up in one. Because again, this is a campaign video for him, not something for students. Students are an afterthought. They don't factor into this equation at all. By the way, in that video, I don't know if you noticed this. You can rewind the video if you need to. There was a coffee mug on his desk. You know what that coffee mug said on it? It said, if you want peace, prepare for war. Which is a ridiculous thing to be parroted by a state education leader who seems to think everything, including children, are just part of some larger battle with theological implications that you are waging against what? Against the secular world that just wants your kids to be smart. Oklahoma is ranked 49th out of 50 in education, according to like US News and World Report. They could use AP classes. If your kids are taking AP classes in Oklahoma, you should give them a hug and give them money or something, because they're the ones who are making your state look really good. And here's Ryan Walters saying, you know what we should do? Let's mess with those kids and their teachers. Let's just push him out of Oklahoma. Why? Who needs teachers anymore? And again, this is the guy who could very well become the next Secretary of Education. I'm waiting for that announcement to come at any second now. But that's part one. Here's the other part of this same video, because Ryan Walters also this week sent out a video to every public school superintendent in the state of Oklahoma. And he did a couple things. I'm going to show you the video in a second. First, he praised Donald Trump. And second, he recited a Christian prayer. And he basically demanded that every school district play the video for kids and then pass it along to their parents. Okay, I'm going to play you this video that he wanted every school to play for everybody.
We are excited to announce a new office here in the Oklahoma State Department of Education. That will be the Office of Religious Liberty and Patriotism. For too long in this country, we've seen the radical left attack individuals' religious liberty in our schools. We will not tolerate that in Oklahoma. Your religious liberties will be protected. We've also seen patriotism mocked and a hatred for this country pushed by woke teachers' unions. We will not tolerate that in any school in Oklahoma. We want our students to be patriotic. We want our students to love this country. And we want all students' religious liberty to be protected. I will now say a prayer. And to be clear, students, you don't have to join. But if you so wish, I'm going to go ahead and pray. Dear God, thank you for all the blessings you've given our country. I pray for our leaders to make the right decisions. I pray in particular for President Donald Trump and his team as they continue to bring about change to the country. I pray for our parents, teachers, and kids that they get the best education possible and live high-quality lives. I also pray that we continue to teach love of country to our young people and that our students understand what makes America great and that they continue to love this country. Amen.
Why? Why are we trying to play that for everybody? Now, here's some good news. When local news reporters reached out to various superintendents, all of them are like, yeah, we are not doing this. Look at this. News on 6 and News 9 have reached out to districts across the state, with several saying they're electing not to show the video. Lots of school districts. I think there's a fine line over what is our responsibility as a school and what's the family's responsibility. Everyone has the right to choose where they go to school and has the right to choose where they go to church. But for us to think that it's our job to impose our will on students' religious freedoms, it's not going to happen here. Ridiculous. And look at what the Oklahoma Attorney General said. I want to repeat, Oklahoma's Attorney General, you would think, red state, guy's a Republican, but for some reason, Oklahoma's Attorney General is also supportive of church-state separation. He's not the worst. Here's what he said. There is no statutory authority for the state school's superintendent, Ryan Walters, to require all students to watch a specific video. Not only is this edict unenforceable, it is contrary to parents' rights, local control, and individual free exercise rights. So even the Attorney General's like, don't listen to Ryan Walters. He's an idiot, which is wonderful to see at least a little bit. I mean, but this is what Ryan Walters is what happens when you allow spineless Republicans with no moral principles and voters who don't know what they're doing or do and have just bad ideas. When you let them control your government, Ryan Walters is what happens. And he's going to keep getting away with this because the members of his own party don't have the courage to call him out on it. Not enough of them anyway. I know some of them are mad at him for not doing like everything they've already legislated and he's not spending the money, but that's it. They're not doing anything else. No one's really speaking out against him because he's a Christian nationalist and they know this is Oklahoma and Republicans are cowards. You've seen this with the Trump nominees. Like all these senators are like, well, if Trump wants us to nominate an alleged child predator for attorney general, who are we to say no? Like, they're all going to vote for these people. They don't have spines. Like, all of them, everyone with an R after their name is just as responsible for Walter's actions as the Republicans who sit in silence while he destroys the state. For what it's worth, the Freedom from Religion Foundation says they're aware of that prayer video. They're working to keep it out of Oklahoma schools, but it seems like superintendents are already one step ahead of them and saying, yeah, we're just not playing this. He can come after them. He probably will, but he can't force it upon everybody. Yeah, let's stop there. What questions do we have about that? I'm done talking about this dude for now. Oh, thanks, Olivia. Promoting religious liberty by taking it away. As you know, religious liberty is when you shove Christianity in everybody's faces. That is the Republican definition of religious freedom. It's the freedom for them to shove their religion in your face and no other religion counts. Dan says, I'm genuinely curious if Ryan Walters has taken a single STEM level class. I don't know his credentials, but it doesn't sound like he's an individual that's familiar with higher education. You know what's interesting? My understanding of Ryan Walters is he used to teach history of some sort. I forgot which specific classes, but there are articles online about where the hell did this guy come from. And they spoke to former students of his, and they were like, we like this guy. He was a great teacher. We genuinely liked him. It's kind of like what you heard from Tim Walls's former students. Like, they love the guy. I think Walters was also a tennis coach, and his tennis students liked him too. And all of them are like, we don't know who this guy is who's pandering to Trump and doing all this Christian nationalist shit, because he wasn't like that when he was in the classroom. He was an awesome teacher. He clearly decided that being nice and being likable wasn't for him, and he just downed all the red pills he could find. So it's weird. Like, he is familiar with STEM classes or history classes or what have you. He knows how schools work, but maybe not AP classes. I don't know. But he's not trying to help his teachers. Now I don't know. He's like a guy who just has a vendetta against all his former colleagues. I don't know. Maybe they all hated him, even if the students liked him. I emailed our school staff and Oklahoma Attorney General about this immediately. My district superintendent called me personally to assure me that they would not participate. That is awesome. Thank you so much for doing that and making your voice heard. That is important. And if any school district in Oklahoma goes through with any of this stuff, or any of those AP Gov teachers uses the Bible that he sent them, this is one way you can fight back in your own way, which is show up at school board meetings and raise hell about why they're allowing this to happen. Because school districts that care about public education, and hopefully you have a superintendent who does, they should not be going along with any of this, because Ryan Walters is not interested in kids getting a good education. Spencer says, you want to know what love of country entails? Calling it out on its failures and working to fix them. Ryan seems to confuse we need to do better for we hate America. I mean, hey, that is the entire Republican Party. If you criticize America, if you say, hey, American history involves a serious look at the legacy of slavery, they say that's like revising history and we can't teach kids that because white kids might feel bad. I mean, the whole conversation around that stuff we've been having for a few years is exactly this. Some people say we need to do better. Republicans interpret that as we hate America, and then they use it as a weapon against liberals, which is idiotic. It's unfair. Not that it's not like it hurts them in elections, Republicans, but it's not right. If Idiot Walters is in charge of education for the U.S., could he do this nationally? My guess, he could try. He could try to do this stuff. There would be national lawsuits in federal courts. And then, I mean, I'm sure Ryan Walters, just like the Louisiana people who want to get the 10 Commandments in public schools, they want this stuff to go to the Supreme Court. And they're hopeful that the Supreme Court will just rule in their favor. So it's not that Ryan Walters could force all schools to do this stuff because everyone can just ignore him. But he can try to say, if you don't do it, we're not giving you special ed funding. We're not helping you with whatever things you need federal funding for. That's the scary part. And if anyone fights back against it, what's he going to do? You can go to the courts about it. That takes a long time to play out. He wants to throw turds in the punch bowl. That's his goal. Because again, he is not interested in making education better for anybody. He's interested in pushing Christianity through whatever vehicle he can find. And there are not any decent Republicans who are going to stand up to someone like that, not in this administration. So what happens to the head of the Department of Education when there is no Department of Education? Yeah, it's a good question. They all talk about eliminating. I think Elon Musk said that this week, like he wants to get rid of most of the departments in the federal government. Does he know what any of them do? Of course he doesn't. And so, like, they all say they want to eliminate this stuff because they don't know what any of these departments actually do. I don't know what happens to the head of the Department of Education. Is he eliminating himself out of a job? What happens after that? I have no clue, because it seems like still a long shot to think he could just get away with it. There's too much red tape you would have to go through to just eliminate the entire department, but they could make it dysfunctional. And that's what all the Trump nominees seem to want to do right now. Let's just make ourselves completely useless. So even if it's still on paper existing, everyone just thinks government sucks. And then what'll happen is after they ruin it, they're going to blame that on Democrats for some reason. And again, anyone who votes for Republicans is too stupid to know that's how this is working, that Republicans screw over everything, they break everything, then they blame Democrats for it. And they get away with it because their voters don't have the ability to know the difference. Thanks for that donation. David Packman thinks that whenever the left is able to wrest back control, we'll be able to rebuild whatever the right destroys. Did he say that? That seems surprising coming from him. I'm not so sure. A lot easier to destroy than build. Thoughts? I understand that the left, the responsible side, is expected to clean up after Republicans' mess. That's been the history of U.S. politics for decades now. Republicans break it, Democrats fix it, and then hand it over to a Republican administration that promptly takes credit for the good stuff and then breaks everything else. I don't know that everything just magically gets back to normal. Like, one, the idea that the left can wrest back control doesn't, that pathway seems so far off right now that I don't know how that happens. But also, their goal, and they've gotten better and better at this, Republicans have, is they destroy things and make it a lot harder to rebuild. So if they destroy public education and then dismantle the stuff, makes it hard to rebuild. If Robert F. Kennedy Jr. destroys the Office of Health and Human Services and the people who are working to produce vaccines in the event of a future pandemic, and then a pandemic happens years later, how do you magically fix that? You can't do it overnight. So if David said that, and again, that seems surprising to me, I don't think we can just count on everything working out. That's not how history works. Not everything bends towards justice. You have to actively work to make that happen, and it doesn't just magically occur. So this idea that everything will be all right in the end, that the good guys will always win, there is no version of the story where that just magically happens. We can fight for it, we can push for it, but obviously that's not what Republicans want, and they're going to spend years trying to destroy whatever they can because no one's holding them accountable for any of this stuff. I wish elected Democrats would hold them accountable, but you have too many people, even Joe Biden this week, having his meeting with Donald Trump where he's like being bipartisan and showing a proper handover of power. Like, no, dude, you know he's a dictator. Treat him like one. What the hell? Hakeem Jeffries said something like that too today. Like, we got to be, we hope to accomplish something in a bipartisan way. Stop it. Why is one side the only side expected to be the adults and reach over and try to work with the others? No, you know what's funny to me? People kept asking Kamala Harris, what are you going to do like with your cabinet if you get elected? And she's like, I'm going to put a Republican in the cabinet. Literally nobody is asking Donald Trump or even thinking, hey, Donald Trump, are you thinking about putting a Democrat in your cabinet? Why would they ask him that? You know, Republicans aren't going to do that. They're not going to do the kind, let's get different voices in the room. No one expects Republicans to function as adults. You expect them to be idiots. You expect them to break everything. No one is expecting them to reach across the aisle for anything. I swear that makes me so mad that everyone just assumes Democrats need to take the higher ground, that when they go low, we go high, all that bullshit. Like, no, start acting like them. Just, you know what? Just go out and say Trump ruined all the jobs. Just everyone start saying it right now and make him defend it. Make him fight against it. Like, how come they get to lie all the time and get away with it? It's so infuriating. I see someone saying, by the way, in the comments, then Trump's Democrat is RFK Jr. Like, I hear your point, but also, no, he's not. He ran as a Republican, as an independent. He has no political allegiance other than he endorsed Donald Trump. Tulsi Gabbard, same thing. She left a long time ago. There's a reason Democrats don't want them. He's not reaching out to any elected Democrat right now. It's ridiculous. And I also hate that a bunch of the centrist Democrats are the only ones that seem to be getting quoted in a lot of newspaper articles as well.